please welcome to the stage Jan Weernink from ADM.
Well, that was an inspiring talk about branding. So let me ask a question on branding. I'm with ADM. By show of hands, who knows ADM? Actually, I'm surprised. We've done a good job at branding, somewhat. So I don't need you. No, but seriously, we do have to talk because I think branding is very important, and it's about the value and the value chain collaboration and bringing promises down into the value chain. And that's what we're also trying to do as ADM. So many of you know ADM, but let me give you a different perspective on ADM. I'm not going to go by the numbers. You can look at the stock exchange and all of that stuff, but we're a big company. And what we're known for is agricultural. We're very much in the agricultural space where a big chunk of the business sits in trading and origination, but we also take those ingredients, we process them into food ingredients, and over the last, let's say, 100 years, they've found their places in industrial applications. However, the challenge has been for us as an agricultural company is to find purpose in the industrial space in a very concise and precise way. And that's why we created a new business called BioSolutions. And that's what I'll be introducing to you. ADM has put on a tagline like, we exist to unlock the power of nature to enrich the quality of life. I think it says a lot. And it's a very bold statement because it touches a lot of different things. It touches the power of nature. So we harvest nature, we turn it into products, we turn it into a value proposition. But we also want to improve the quality of life. And that means a couple different things to people because quality of life can mean better quality of food or improved quality of products, but it also means sustainability. And that's the bottom line of what we're trying to improve. So we look at consumer trends, and you can start with the bottom or the center of it, which is around demographics. You have all these mega trends, and they radiate out towards more specific market growth drivers. And you can see that health and wellness, food security, and sustainability are very much connected in some form or fashion. We're all about sustainability in that sense, and that's a little bit why this BioSolutions business that I'm in has been created, because we're trying to bring sustainable solutions to industrial applications. And these applications I'll talk to in a little bit. I like the topic this morning when people were talking about regenerative ag. Anybody has a sense of what regenerative ag actually means? Just show of hands. So let me try to give you a little bit of a perspective. Farmers have been doing the right things for hundreds and thousands of years, right? They've been cultivating harvested products, and they've done a good job at it. But we've actually intensified our agricultural process. And in doing so, we depleted the soil. So what regenerative ag is basically going back to our old practices and instill best practices from the farmers of years gone by to figure out how do we, and I think the comment was made here, replenish the earth with carbon. And I think that is what this regenerative ag is all about, figuring out ways that we help farmers improve their growing practices so they improve yield, they reduce the water consumption, they use less pesticides, so we actually improve the process of agricultural industry. Now, ADM is a company that kind of sits in the middle of all of that because we are, on one hand, we are backwards integrated to farmers, to the agricultural space. We harvest that, we get all those products from them, and we turn them into products. So we're actually in a very sweet spot when it comes to influencing the let's say the regenerative ag space. We try to instill best practices. We incentivize the farmers, and we incentivize the farmers financially to do the right thing. So a lot of times best practices don't get adopted because it costs money, or the farmer will lose money on X, Y, or Z. So that's what we're trying to take away from the farmer, that insecurity. So we actually pay them for certain practices. We found out which ones, because we're a big agricultural company, we figured out what works. And by paying the farmers, we're buying their crop in a more sustainable way, because their practices, we buy acreage. That acreage is then harvest it in a sustainable way. Yeah? We tell them about regenerative ag principles like soil management, cover crops, pesticide use, et cetera, et cetera. And by doing that, we actually reduce the carbon intensity, the carbon footprint, and that is something that we can take with our products. So our products by nature, before they even enter the factory, have a lower carbon intensity score. And therefore we can give that value back to a Coca-Cola who sits in a really tough spot, and you heard it from L'Oreal as well. They want to be net zero by 2030, but they have no way how to get there because they don't make products. They put stuff together and sell it to as a retailer, as a brand, but they don't influence that whole process. So they need to rely on their suppliers to help them to get to this net zero story. And that's where we come in, because our ingredients are plant-based. We actually incentivize the farmers to do the right thing, and we take those carbon intensity improvements and give them to the Coke or Pepsi or the food industry. We're trying to do now the same thing with the industrial space as well. So fundamentally, we're trying to build a much more sustainable value chain, all the way from the farmers to our manufacturing facilities, where we go with Scope 1 and Scope 2 initiatives, reduce the energy consumption ourselves, logistics and supply chain, all the way into finding new applications for our ingredients. And we all know that certain of our ingredients are coming from corn or soy or wheat. They've been turned into starch. Starch is a well-known ingredient for the food space, but we're also finding new applications by modifying it as a biopolymer for fermentation processes, or for packaging materials, or for home care and personal care as a rheology modifier. So we're starting to find new application spaces with these very old, established, farmer-based products. So in a nutshell, because this is about speed dating here, we're about agricultural process. We're trying to distill products from the farms. We turn them into industrial ingredients. By and large, it's through fermentation processes. We provide them with additional functionality. You think about a starch. Everybody knows starch from the kitchen. You pour it into your pot of sauce, you heat it up a little bit, it thickens, right? Well, you can also modify the starch so you create more functionality, or you can take the starch and ferment it into, down the road, into an ethanol or a polyol, and these are now bio-based ingredients. So you can see that the regenerative ag principles that we started off with are now transferred all the way through our product development cycle. And we're focusing those products into a number of select market segments where we feel there's an immediate fit for it. We talk about commercialization. We can go really 10 years out, and we're also doing that, but we're also looking at the immediate impact in the market segments that we've chosen. Let me give you a quick video that tells you all about who we are in a nutshell. It probably does a better job than I do.
With our broad range of plant-based ingredients, ADM BioSolutions is helping with the de-fossilization of the industrial value chain without compromising performance standards. As we work together to replace petrochemical-based raw materials, we've used our century of expertise and innovation in industrial applications to generate a portfolio of products that delivers diversified functionality across a range of applications. Our plant-based products and solutions can deliver value across these industry segments. Count on ADM for the reliability you require. A global supply chain leader supported by world-class facilities and a strong logistics network. Starting at the farm, we work directly with growers and other partners to deliver highly reliable, consistent products. For successful plant-based solutions, ADM's Industrial BioSolutions give you the edge to succeed.
There was one word in there that I want to clarify, and that is de-fossilization. For the chemists under us, you hear the politicians talk about decarbonizing the value chain. Well, I am a bit of a scientist, and I don't think you can take carbon out of a molecule that is organic, right? You can't take carbon out of a human. So the decarbonization story is, we kind of have to put it with a pinch of salt. It's the defossilization. We're trying to remove from fossil-based to plant-based. That's defossilizing. That's not decarbonizing. Right? So I just want to put that straight, because everybody talks about decarbonizing the industry. And in my opinion, that's not possible. We can defossilize it. And by the way, if you think about this, this is not the only story, right? We heard about CO2 is a feedstock, chemical recycling will be a feedstock, and the biomass will be a feedstock. So it's not an or story, it's an and story, like biomass and recycling and the CO2 journey that we're on. So it really is a tough journey that we're in, but there's lots and lots of solutions, and that's why I'm excited, Paul, that we're here, because we're seeing all these startups, they're doing all these great little things. I hope we get scale very quickly. Thank you.